Welcome to part two of my conversation with Kim Parker of Kim Parker Yoga. She's a sound healer and a yoga instructor. We talked about expectations and the information she gets from any initial conversation with clients. She also talks a lot about myofascial release. It was something I did not know was that extensive. Also about the future of Kim Parker Yoga. Thanks for listening. Welcome to Blue Lightning Healing Meditations. My name is Susie Parker Goins. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a channel, so I bring forward your guides so you can connect more easily with them, allowing you to have soul-deep conversations with them whenever you want. I'm an energy healer, a past life explorer, a mentor. My goal is to empower you by teaching you techniques that you can use on your own. We work together to find and identify the blockages to your growth and release them, inviting you to explore your possibilities. I'm available for phone and virtual sessions, and with Washington State opening up, I will be at some of these in-person events. The best way to contact me is through susie@bluelightninghealing.com. You can also contact me through my website, bluelightninghealing.com. There you'll find links in a fully searchable database of my podcasts, a link for my Ko-fi.com account to support me in my efforts, and a full calendar of events so that you know where I'll be online and in person. Oh yeah, and the appointment scheduler. That's there too. Thanks so much. Blessings. So do I have any other questions? Do you have any other things to tell me about sound healing?
Sound healing looks and feels different for a lot of people. So I've been talking a lot about words like soothing, relaxing, calming. I will also say that it can be very normal during a sound meditation to feel really energized, or to feel like, the way I've had people describe it is like the light bulbs were finally turning on and lighting the path to a solution to a problem or something like that. It
Nice.
was like, oh, boom, like inspiration or creativity was unlocked.
Sweet.
So for some people, they might, and it can be different for the same person on different occasions,
Yeah.
right? So it's not necessarily like this is always going to be your response to this.
Right.
Like you said earlier, it's that confluence of so many different factors, what we bring to the day and everything else. But I will say that it can look and feel very different for people. So I have people experience everything from like deep rest, like people who actually start snoring within like 30 seconds, people who can't sleep, who then are boom out and getting that deep rest, and they're like, oh, I feel bad, I slept through it. Well, no, you didn't really like sleep through it, like you needed this. And even if you were not conscious the whole time, your body is still experiencing the vibrations.
Yeah.
So I have people all the way on that end of the spectrum who are like out. I have people who just feel really relaxed or peaceful, or like that chit chat in the head, that vritti business, the little tornadoes finally simmer down a little bit or a lot of it. I've had folks say that they feel afterwards really relaxed, but also really like energized and focused, like they could go straight into like something really productive. I've also had people say afterwards that they're really relaxed and they're like gonna go home and go night-night. You know, so it's such a range. That's part of what's fun for me is working with people and seeing how I can meet them and kind of what the vibration shakes loose for them.
So in the hands of a practiced or experienced practitioner, it doesn't sound like there are many downsides to sound healing. It's just depending on what resonates with them.
Yeah, like I kind of said that jokingly earlier, but it really
Yeah.
is.
It's
We're
not
talking
for
about vibration here.
Yeah, it's not for everyone, but
Mm-mm.
it's certainly not something to just go, oh, that's malarkey, that's bull, don't try it. There is something, and it's worth a shot to experience it from somebody who has practiced, who knows what they're
Yes.
doing.
I think in the time I've been doing singing bowls, I know of one person who attended a sound meditation with me who then had difficulty sleeping afterwards for a couple of days. But I think she had some other things. There was a confluence of factors there that
Yeah.
maybe singing, the timing was not great for her, but it's one out of I don't even know how many who have come to my group sound meditations or who come from private sessions or who've just been in a yoga class where I play some singing bowls during Shavasana at the end. I've only had one person come to me and say, I'm really not sure if I want to try that again because I couldn't sleep for a couple days afterwards. And I am totally respectful of that. Like, we don't need to try it again.
Well, yeah, there are times when one goes through some sort of healing work, whatever it is, whether it's energy work, and that covers so much, but it could be bringing up stuff that the person's not ready or isn't in a place where they can handle it. So I can understand how it could be. It's a question of whether you're ready to handle it. And if you can't, that's okay. You get to do other stuff.
Yes. Give yourself permission.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you are hitting on so many things. I've been writing a meditation and you've talked about resonance and flow and permission and stuff like that. So thank you for affirming that what I'm doing right now is what I need to be doing. Cool. I did have a question. What else? I forgot what I was going to say.
Do we need to do the old backtrack thing? Like,
No,
if you forgot something, you're supposed to walk back into that room and like.
Okay. So sound healing, I asked you about how to play it. Okay. I really do love the parasympathetic nervous system being called rest, digest, and restore.
Because those are the functions that are brought online
Yeah.
when the nervous system switches into that gear, which, I mean, when you use sciencey words like sympathetic and parasympathetic, a lot of people just glaze over, right? Because they're like, I don't know.
But getting into that explanation.
But if you can identify what the functions are, people are like, okay, rest, digest, restore. Oh, yeah, I need some of that.
Yeah. Okay, so we were just talking about people who didn't resonate with it and people who do. So it is possible, and that a client uses their own discernment. Just because it's something that's out there, sure, try it. But I feel that somebody could talk to you, or I would feel any practitioner who is open to hearing and find out if it is in fact something they want to do.
Yeah, and a lot of times when I have somebody who is new to the idea, especially if they're coming in for a private session, I love to do a phone chat with them ahead of time to get an idea of like, why are you interested in this? What made you schedule a session? Because everybody comes to sound meditation, yoga, all of this stuff for various reasons, right?
Do you take into account somebody's expectations? Say, what do you expect to get out of this? And if somebody says, well, I want to lose 50 pounds from the time I walk in to the time I walk out and have perfect hair and all this stuff. And I haven't
had quite that expectation laid out. Usually when I'm working with people in a private session situation, my questions are more along the lines of, I like to ask folks, what are you most excited about in your life right now? And what feels like the biggest challenge, or what feels like you're stuck? I usually kind of keep it to those two questions because they can be pretty enlightening, actually.
Yeah.
And
that would inform what sort of tones that you choose.
Well, it informs for me how it's more of an approach. One, simply asking people the questions and getting them to vocalize their answers is huge. Yeah. Because a lot of times people don't think about those things or don't even realize what those things are until somebody asks and actually listens and wants to listen. So there's that piece that's not even necessarily like specifically sound meditation. It's just
in general,
connection, authentic connection, right?
Yes, yes.
Which again is one of those things that helps. It signals our body that we're safe. We're back with our tribe. We are safe. We can get out of that fight or flight. I usually stick to those couple of questions, and then their answers might inform how I open the meditation. So I usually do some guided breathing at the beginning, maybe a visualization, and depending on what a person's, thing they're excited about is, or inspired by is, or what their challenge stuck thing is, that can inform the language that I'm using or kind of the direction of that piece. And then from there, most of what I do is built on that relaxation protocol. So it's kind of, I call it variations on a theme. So you've got the set theme of the sheet music, and then you can kind of, jazz it up, I guess you could say.
Jazz came into my head.
Where you work within that framework, but there's some improvisation. And when it comes to the sound massage, the bowl's placed on the body, and then I ring the bowls on the body. That sometimes is informed by that conversation at the beginning as well. Does it seem like it would be more beneficial to do something up in the chest area or in the belly area? Sometimes it's a physical thing that people are talking about, like I feel really anxious and it's up here, or I feel really anxious and it's down in my guts, or somebody's having breathing difficulties or digestive issues. Sometimes it's kind of literal and sometimes it's not, but that can be informed by that conversation as well.
Cool. Okay. And we're going to segue ever so gently into the myofascial
release.
Myofascial release. Now,
Mm-hmm.
my massage therapist has done fascia, which I know is that connective tissue, and she can stretch that out. But the tell me how to say it again, please. Myofascial release. First off, what is that? I don't know what that is.
Yeah. Again, science words, people go, So if you've had some experience with fascia work with your massage therapist, then you have an idea of what this is. So the fascia system is relatively newly researched in the grand scheme of anatomy, like the last few decades, that we've been able to see the fascia system in the body. And it's basically like this giant spiderwebby connective tissue material that holds you together.
Yeah.
And if you pull on one piece of it, it affects everything else. Kind of like your shirt. Like if you pull on one part of your shirt, most of other parts of your shirt move, but what you pulled on was over here, right? So if you have an area that has scar tissue, people who have a surgery or an injury, scar tissue, that creates an adhesion or scar tissue stuff that then might pull and put pressure on some other area, right? Or if somebody has habitual movement patterns, repetitive motions due to work or posture or whatever, that can also create areas where the fascia moves really freely because it's used to doing that, and then areas that maybe it doesn't move very freely because it's not used to that, or it's overworked, underworked. It can be kind of a range. Basically, we have this spider web holding us together that is constantly adapting to the demands that are placed on it. So if, for instance, we are at a computer all day, every day, and we have computer posture, it's going to respond to that and be like, okay, this is home base. And then you start to get stuck in that shape over time, and you have to actively work to loosen and, what's the word I'm looking for? Release those. Oh, there it is. It's in the name of the stuff. Need to release the tension in those tissues. So myofascial release work can look, there's lots of different techniques and stuff. What I do is I use yoga therapy balls. So we're not talking about the big yoga balls that you sit on at a desk. That's a different thing. But what I use are a few different sizes of yoga therapy balls from either Yoga Tune-Up. Tune-Up Fitness is one brand, Tradition. And then Well Round is another one, very similar. So those are the kind of brands that I use their gear. We use the yoga balls to basically give ourselves a massage, a targeted massage, and you can do it all over the place, different techniques, different places, to help pinpoint where the tension resides in your body, which again is creating a proprioception thing, right? Where we're actually paying attention. The brain is acknowledging a sensation in the body and we're paying attention. Oh, that is happening right there, acknowledging it, which a lot of times, especially if something's uncomfortable, we like to not acknowledge those things.
Okay. Yep. Makes sense.
Or we might over fixate on it to a point where we think it's worse than it is. So it could go either way, right? Okay. But it's all about being present with what is actually going on. So we breathe into these spaces as we apply pressure with these yoga therapy balls. And you can use these things rolling around on the floor. You can use them leaning up against a wall. Like I carry one in my car that I can just like throw in my shoulder spot back here while I'm stuck at the stoplight and do a little shimmy shimmy. So I love the accessibility of them, right? You can take them on the go. You can, and it's empowering for people to learn how to access those spots where their tension lands and hides out and stays and gets tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter. It's so empowering for people to learn how to recognize those warning signs earlier, recognize the sensations in the body before it's totally jacked up, and then to have techniques where they can use these simple little tools that they can have in their car or bedside table or stick in your purse or whatever. And a couple minutes goes a long way with these rolling techniques because you can be so focused because you don't have to explain to somebody where to find it, right? You are the boss of it.
You know where it is. Yeah.
You know where it is. So we use the yoga therapy balls to help release tension, which then also helps to, how do I want to say this? It's kind of a chicken and the egg thing. Going back to the idea of the sympathetic nervous system response, that fight or flight, part of the physiological response to those stress hormones is the muscles tense for action. If you are tensed for action a lot, not because bears are chasing you, but because you've got projects at work and you've got kids to take care of and you've got bills to pay and you've got a pandemic going on and you've got all these things and you've got to figure out how to juggle them all and your body is carrying this tension, it's really hard to get that parasympathetic response on board because you're jacked up, you're stuck in a physiological way, even if you don't feel like it up here, even if you're like in your head, you're like, I'm not stressed out, I'm fine. But if your body still feels it, you got to convince your body. You got to speak body language, right? You can't just logic your way out of it all the time. Sometimes maybe, but sometimes you can't. And especially if folks have experienced trauma or anything like that, got to speak the body's language. You got to tell the body that it's safe. And so the fascia work is really profound, not just for pain management, which was how I originally first learned about it when I was postpartum and had 5 lumbar discs that were bulging and couldn't feel my left heel and all kinds of things were out of whack as my body was coming back together. Not only did it help with the pain management and getting everything kind of back to a groovy neutral spot in the body, it also helped with the emotional stuff that was stuck in that tension.
Yeah, the body holds on to all kinds of things, and
Yes, the
emotion
body
is one of them.
remembers.
Oh,
Even if you have forgotten or blocked out or swept under the rug, the body still remembers. And so it's not unusual for people to be doing little roll and release stuff with me, and maybe they'll get emotional or they'll feel laughter or like, quote, weird things come up. But it's just emotions and it's just the body, it's the physical release of that tension that has been stuck there for maybe a short while or maybe a really long while.
yeah.
Yeah, I try my best to give people, to set the stage for this space and all of these modalities to be a safe place for whatever needs to come up and to flow through and to finish.
Right.
Whatever that is. So you don't have to feel like you've got to tamp it down or keep it together when you're in the space doing this stuff, because that's why we're doing this stuff, is so that it can get out, because so much of our culture tells us to just like suck it up and deal with shit, right?
Oh, yeah. I heard that phrase, dry it up or suck it up, and I
just suck it
went,
up and deal with it, or it's not that bad. And maybe it is or maybe it isn't, but
it needs to be looked at and
it needs to be looked at and acknowledged and
acknowledged.
released.
Yes.
So I have a toddler. He's 3.5. Bless his soul. He's such a kick in the pants. But when he is in freak out mode about something because he is upset, there's no rationalizing with him at that point. He is not in his rational brain. You have to speak body language. You have to take deep breaths or help him to move his body in a way to help him calm down first, which then helps to wipe the muck off of the screen so that you can actually see what's happening and then have a somewhat rational conversation about what we could do differently or solution to the problem or whatever. But if you were just like jacked up and upset, picture a 3-year-old, but we do this as grown-ups too. It just might not look the same.
I don't know. They have a name for it now. Karen.
Yeah. If we don't have a way to move through this stuff and to get through what I've been reading about understanding the stress response cycle as a tunnel, and you have to get through the tunnel. You have to use up those stress hormones to get back to equilibrium. And if you don't use them up in some way or discharge them in some way, then they're just going to get stuck in your system
That
and then
causes
come out
imbalance.
when you least expect it or least want it to.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, so it sounds to me that the myofascial release is something that's done in person.
Well, it's a do-it-yourself kind of a thing. Like I'm not doing it on people.
Right.
I'm coaching them on how to use the tools themselves. So, and usually I kind of blend the yoga, mindful movement, and the roll and release is what I call it.
Okay.
Myofascial release, roll and release work. I like to blend those two together in classes and sessions because they work really well together. But yes, it's an embodied technique, so it's something that you are doing.
As opposed to online.
I
You know,
have
so,
taught it online.
okay, so yeah, let's talk about how you deliver your classes.
Yeah,
Because
so
when I saw you, it was pre-pandemic.
yes.
So how is that playing out now? I'm not.
It's been playing out. It's been learning how to do things in a new way. Yeah. So pre-pandemic, I was doing everything in person. Since pandemic, learned how to use Zoom, learned how to teach both yoga and myofascial release via Zoom. Technically, I could try to do sound meditation via Zoom, but I don't have fancy enough recording equipment to
That's right.
do it as much justice as I would like it to. The sound does not pick up well on the equipment that I have. But yeah, I have adapted to teaching these things online and also in person now. I have private classes, private class times available. I'm starting a new program this month actually that I'm really excited about that's going to be hybrid. I'm going to have a few spots here in the studio and then unlimited spots online for the program, which is the first time I will have done it like at the same time. I've done either like everybody's on Zoom or everybody's in person. So we'll see how that goes.
How cool. I like that. I mean,
Yeah,
I could drive down there, but I don't like to drive, so I may
so
have to avail
you could
myself
pop
of
onto
that.
the live stream and do it instead.
That would be cool.
Which has
Okay.
actually been kind of fun. Like, as much as I miss having everybody here in person, I've also gotten to access and meet people that wouldn't otherwise be able to come to my space.
Yeah.
Folks who've moved far enough south who, they're not going to drive
Yeah.
from Tacoma, a gal from Texas who had taken a class with me and then she's in Texas now and now she's taking them from
Yeah.
Texas. Like it's a different thing. It's a
Yeah.
different kind of a thing.
I find we could get all bent out of shape about not being in person, but it's also a shift in perspective. I know people in Canada that I talk to almost regularly, but as far out as Florida, and I've had events that have been seen in Australia. And so I'm like, that couldn't have happened if I had to drive there. I hardly drive to Portland, which is an option coming up and stuff. So it's pretty cool. Definitely a shift in perspective. Yay.
Absolutely.
Okay. Do you have any final thoughts then? Any final things that I might have missed?
I just always like to tell people that there's not really prerequisites for this kind of stuff. Yoga, myofascial release, sound meditation. It's okay to be new at something. It's okay to have never tried it before and to try it, and then you can decide if you like it or not. Like maybe try it more than once to decide if you like it or not, because sometimes the first time you try something, it's just new and different. And we're not always good at things the first time. And maybe redefine what your definition of good is.
Giving yourself permission to learn.
Giving yourself permission to learn and to just show up and breathe and move. Or in a sound meditation situation, show up, lay down and breathe. Or sit in a chair and breathe, whatever is accessible for you. And to just give yourself permission to experience something without being so attached to a specific expectation, a specific result. Not that we aren't intention oriented, right? We're not just like flapping around, leaves, it's windy here at my house this weekend. So the leaves are, blowing all over the place. We're not doing things totally haphazardly, but sometimes we can get so there can be so much tension actually, or so much stress on a particular result or a particular expectation of how something is going to feel or look or be, or that, I'm going to leave here and have lost 50 pounds or have amazing hair, like you said a few moments ago. Like
being reasonable.
being reasonable, but also like maybe that's not actually what you need right now.
Perfect. That's perfect.
And maybe just scheduling the time to be in a space that is space, that's giving yourself space. There's a theme of space in all of these things. That's getting back to connecting with space, which our culture, our modern day life does not really encourage us to just have space. Space to just rest, space to think, space to be creative, space to just not have to like cram pack every moment of every day with something. Even if we do have a few minutes, do we pick up our phone instinctively and start scrolling through stuff? There's just so much that we fill our time and our bodies and our minds and our emotions with. And I find a lot of folks just need some space.
And it's not a question of opening up the Pandora's box of, and that story in itself, that's a whole nother thing. But, you're not going to find absolutely dreadful things all the time. You're going to find a little bit maybe, and it's going to release layers. But to be in a safe, I'm going to call it sacred space, because there's respect and there is a sense of source coming through to help, and everybody is honored, that you're going to find stuff. Yeah. But nobody's judging you for it.
And I think that's the hardest piece for a lot of folks, is to really, truly believe that whoever they're engaged in the practice with is not judging them, but also to step out of judgment for themselves.
Yeah.
Because we are conditioned from such a young age to be our own worst critics.
Yeah.
And to tell ourselves that we're not good enough, or we're not doing enough, or I hear it all the time with people who have said, I've always wanted to try yoga, but I'm not flexible enough, but I'm not skinny enough. I'm like, what is flexible enough? What is skinny enough? And then I ask people, can you breathe? Okay, you can do yoga.
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah.
You just come.
To understand the process it's not the end result, that immediate flexibility, it's the process. That is what I hold dear. It's like, you got to start somewhere.
You got to start somewhere. And your body, your mind, your heart, all of it, somewhere down in there really wants to know that it's home and that it's safe to just be. And I think all the other benefits that we experience from these practices is a result of that.
Yeah.
That coming home piece.
Yeah, I love that. Coming home to yourself.
Then everything else falls into place, because there's not this separation, this tension of trying to be something different than what we are, or it's a coming home. It's a coming home.
Yeah, I like that. I keep making notes. It's like, I'm going to incorporate that and incorporate that. That's lovely, lovely. Yay.
You're welcome.
And then breathe. Thank you so much, Kim. This has been amazing. I am so grateful that you carved out time for us and your toddler kid. Well done.
Thank you.
I remember my 3.5-year-olds when they were around. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes I have to remind myself that it's okay to be tired at the end of the day, even when it's like, what did we accomplish? Well, the kid is alive and the house is still standing. I think we did good.
Life is good. Life is good. And you can breathe.
And I'm still breathing.
And you're still breathing. It's so worth it. So if you would please, all your contact information, how we can find you and contact you, please.
I am on the interwebs, so I do have my own website, which is kimparkeryoga.com. You can also find me on Facebook and on Instagram. I think the handles for both of those is @KimParkerYoga. my studio space here, my in-person space is in Linwood, Washington. I'm right in the Alderwood Manor area. If you're in the hood and you know where that is, that's whereabouts we are. And let me think, where else? What else?
Any kind of hours, or we can look up your classes and stuff.
Sure. So my class schedule is online right now on my website. Right now, I'm offering Tuesday nights are a Zoom, a kind of an open drop-in style Zoom yoga class. It's a flow class on Tuesday nights. And the new program that I have starting here on October 21st, I believe, is a 5-week mindfulness program. It's called Get Steady. And it's going to be a blend of conversations, kind of like what we've done today, but with some specific topics, really dialing into the stress response cycle and how understanding how that works in the body and how to complete the cycle using embodied mindfulness tools, yoga tools, so that we can reclaim a sense of calm and concentration in the midst of all the things, because we can't necessarily make all the things disappear, but we can have some control over our own internal processing of that stress response cycle.
Will this be a recurring class? Like if
so I'm going to run it, I'm going to run it for 5 weeks, which will take us right up until Thanksgiving time. And I already have some ideas in the work for like a second module, which would be building off of it, but probably would still be accessible for people to be able to jump into that second module if they hadn't done the first.
Because like I said, I don't have any guarantee of when I can get this posted, and with you having an October 21st date.
Sure.
So what I'm actually angling for is like, yeah, you're going to run it again, right?
Yeah. Some iteration of it will definitely be run again.
Cool.
The 2.0 version.
but having it build on itself, I can see where that's beneficial too. But that's your planning, not mine.
Yours. Not yours. That's my project.
Well, again, thank you. Thank you so much. I am so thrilled to know that you're out there helping people and that you have not reduced it, but you've broken it down in such a way to make it so accessible. I talk a lot about accessibility and when I'm doing stuff, and to have more practitioners out there saying, yeah, you can do it. Yeah. You got to try. And nobody can make anybody do it, but at least try. And
show up.
Then showing up.
Schedule the time. Schedule the time. As a mom, I know if it doesn't get on my schedule, it is not going to happen.
Yep.
So schedule the time. And that's part of what's been fun. In addition to the Zoom things I've been doing, it's been nice to start getting people's private classes scheduled in. So we've got some folks who come for their one-on-one. We've got some people who come with their little group of friends. And that's like their time, whether it's for yoga or a blend of yoga and myofascial release, or if it's just a sound meditation, any of those things.
It sounds like that non-alcoholic version of the wine and paint thing.
It's like Friday afternoon is yoga time for these group of gals, and that's what they do, and it's just, it's nice to have that connection and that community building back here in the space.
And it's for anybody, any body or any person. And so that I
have taught ages from 5 to 80 something. And I've got people who do their yoga in chairs because that's what's available to them. And I've got people who want to stand on their heads.
Sweet. More power to them as long as they're bringing
the whole
range. That's awesome. Awesome. Well, okay, I'm going to say thank you again, and I look forward to hanging with you. I think that would be a good thing. This has been Susie Parker Goins of Blue Lightning Healing and Kim Parker of Kim Parker Yoga. And until next time, blessings, y'all.